ready. So, Mr. Ben Crump, you're here in Baltimore. Got a few activities on your agenda, but you're delivering the commencement speech tomorrow at Morgan State University.
Yes, ma'am. I'm very excited to deliver the commencement and try to inspire the young people to go out and make the world a better place.
How important do you think that is to deliver an inspirational message to a group of young potential leaders who have just finished an academic accomplishment?
Well, I consider it a very important mission that I'm prepared for because I want to articulate to them that this college education is such a valuable commodity and that now they have obtained it, that they can't keep it to themselves, that they have to go use that education to people who were not blessed to get that education and try to uplift communities that need educated stakeholders to help. And I believe in the future so much that these young people are going to do extraordinary things, and I'm going to talk about that legacy that we're counting on them to fulfill.
Well, and that leads me to the topic of not every kid, especially in a place like Baltimore City, has the opportunity to sit at a commencement ceremony and listen to a speaker like yourself deliver that inspirational message. How important is it for people to realize the value of that college education?
You know, it has been said education is the passport to the future. And when you're denied a quality education, then your future is extremely limited. I know Armstrong Williams and I have been working on Crisis in the Classroom to talk about that we owe our children at least the basic quality education so they can have an opportunity at the American promise of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. But without a quality education, their future is so bleak from day one.
Is that why you joined the lawsuit in Baltimore City against the school system for a failing system?
I did, because we put all politics aside, we put all special interests aside, and we tried to focus on the children to say, let's make this about these young people and giving them the opportunity to be all they can be. I honestly believe it with everything in my heart. Without a quality education in American society today, you are a target for the school to prison pipeline. You're already in prison. They just have not closed the prison cell door yet. And that's why we have to give our children an education so they won't get caught up in prison.
Is that happening in Baltimore City?
Well, I want to believe that the lawsuit is making everybody pay attention, making them understand that we all have to come to the table. Every stakeholder has to come to the table and try to solve this crisis, because we have to treat it like a crisis. And that's why I'm thankful to Armstrong and others for saying that this is a crisis proportional issue. You can't treat it like it's just a mundane, regular issue, because too many children, futures are being snubbed out. They don't even get a chance when they get a high school diploma just for going along to get along, where they're not being educated properly on the level that they need to be able to compete in society.
And that's if they do graduate high school in the first place.
Well, that was a presumption on my part that they were graduating.
We're seeing so many students in the city get caught up in the struggle of success in the classroom. They're not seeing this success. We see test score after test score after test score fall below average, and yet the leaders are just saying, well, this was a pandemic problem and we're working on it. It doesn't seem like it's rising to the level of urgency that perhaps it should be.
Yeah, and that's what we have to continue to do, to use whatever platforms we have, whatever influence, to remind them that our children's education is a crisis issue. We can't let this fall beneath the cracks and say that we'll get to it tomorrow, because every day that we don't treat it like a crisis, we lose dozens and dozens of other children. And you know, I am honored to give the commencement at the great Morgan State University, And it is my hope that there'll be a lot of those young people who graduate who want to go into the field of education and want to try to inspire young people to be all that they can be. And that is what, we're going to touch on during my commencement address.
You're giving us a little preview of what's to come.
Preview.
We're seeing a rise in juvenile crime. It's in Baltimore City, but also in Prince George's County and other places, and not just in Maryland, but we're seeing it happen all across the country. Do you think that there's a connection between this rise in juvenile crime and the struggles that students are facing in the classroom?
Well, I do understand crime is multifaceted, and so it's never just going to be one single thing, but it's a lot of things that contribute to a rise in crime. And so you want to study it. You don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction when you look at the crime rates and find out from social scientists who have studied crime over the years, not just this year, but to look at how it is proportionate to previous years. And then you look at the educational rates during those years to see if there's some concomitant bond between the two. But like education, crime in our communities has to be addressed by all the stakeholders. It's not just one person who's going to fix it or one entity. It won't just be the police who can fix crime. It has to be city leadership. It has to be business community. It has to be education community. It has to be the religious community. Everybody has to come together to fix these issues that affect all of us in the community. And we always have to remember that we're in this together. And rather than pointing fingers at each other, let's come to the table. We may not disagree. Let me say that again. Instead of just pointing fingers at one another, we need to all come to the table together. We may not all disagree on what the solution is, but we can disagree but not be disagreeable. Let's get to the table and try to communicate and find where there's common ground where we can start to move forward.
Do you hope that the lawsuit in the city could potentially spark change beyond Baltimore City?
I'm banking on it. My time is being, pulled from every part of the country. And the reason I keep coming back to Baltimore is I believe Baltimore can be the key to the education crisis all across America.
Why do you say that?
Because if the citizens can make sure that we have accountability and productivity, then that could be a model for cities just like Baltimore and every state in America.
Is that what's missing in the city? Is that accountability and productivity?
I think so, because when you look at any industry, it's about making sure there's accountability so you can see that the investments are getting the returns from the investments. And the returns on the investment of education has the ability to be exponential in the return. You never know what these young people can do if given a quality education. I take myself as an example. I take my brother Armstrong Williams as an example. You, Mackenzie, people with a quality education are like birds. They can flap their wings and go anywhere to heights that nobody imagined. But first, they gotta have a quality education.
Imagine what Baltimore could be like if every student had those wings.
Now, that's what drives me. I imagine Baltimore, I imagine cities all across America being able to give our children the fundamental building blocks to be successful, constructive citizens in American society.
Perfect. I think I'm all set.
Okay.